Joe Biden has a big contributor by the name of Hamath Palihapitiya. Say that fast 10 times. Hamath Palihapitiya, if I've mispronounced your name, too damn bad. And he's a billionaire. And he's given an enormous amount of money to the Biden campaign and the DNC. He gave $750,000 to Schumer's PAC to elect more Democrats to the Senate. He's given money to Cory Booker. Fox actually went and looked at the FEC records and his donation records. He gave money to Hillary Clinton when she ran against Trump. And of course, as I said, gave an enormous amount of money to a pro-Biden PAC in 2020, as well as the Biden campaign. So he's an ardent leftist and an ardent Democrat. And he's on a leftist podcast. One, of course, I've never listened to or never heard of. The Kalakinis, Sachs, and Freeberg podcast. Well, gee willikers, I must be missing a ton there. Sounds like a lousy law firm, quite frankly. Nonetheless, this guy, as you've probably heard by now, is a part owner of the Golden State Warriors, where they have a big mouth for a coach. And I don't know if the big mouth coach has said anything even. Isn't that Steve Kerr or something like that? If I'm wrong, who cares? It's the NBA. Now, keep in mind, the NBA has been soft on the genocide taking place in China, worse than soft, has contributed to that government and to that government's economy. LeBron James has a very big mouth in defense of the communist Chinese. When a general manager for the Mavericks dared to tweet out about Hong Kong, he denounced that general manager. And the history is well known by you. We've talked about it, and I'm sure you've looked at it on your own. LeBron James is a billionaire for all intents and purposes, and he's made his fortune in part due to his sneakers that are made by slave labor in the most western part of China, where they have their death camps, and where they have their slaves, their torture, their rape, and all the rest of it going on. Doesn't seem to affect him. But we do have a basketball player whose last name ends in Freedom. That makes it easier to remember. Enes Kanter Freedom, who has condemned all of this. He's been persona non grata in the NBA. And of course, the NBA commission is a joke. ESPN's a joke. And that they don't condemn this either. But this guy speaks what a lot of them are thinking. And he should be condemned. He speaks about what a lot of them are thinking on the left. And he's been condemned for it, and he should be. Let's check this out. Go.
What I'm proposing is that Biden engage in Clintonian, by which I mean Bill Clintonian, triangulation, which is he does not have the votes in Congress to enact a progressive agenda. He should be looking for bipartisan wins. He did it with the infrastructure bill. He could do it with this insider trading thing. He could do it on the election.
Just a reminder, I told you this is a liberal Democrat podcast site, but I want to continue. Go.
Count Act. These are things that would be, progress.
Yeah. China policy.
And importantly, momentum going into 2024.
And maybe good for Americans. Like, I mean, his China policy, the fact that he came out with a statement on the Uyghurs, I thought was very strong. It's one of the stronger things he did, but it's not coming up in the polls. And I think the whole Republicans interested in getting Hillary to run again is
nobody cares about what's happening to the Uyghurs, okay? You bring it up because you really care. And I think that's nice that you care. The rest of us don't care. I'm just telling you a very hard...
Wait, you're saying you personally don't care?
I'm telling you a very hard, ugly truth, okay? Of all the things that I care about, yes, it is below my line. Okay? Of all the things that I care about, it is below my line.
Disappointing.
Well, I think people, if you explain to them what's happening to the Uyghurs in China, they care, but it's not top of mind for them.
That's not
what's
caring.
Top of mind right now is they go to their grocery store and the shelves are empty.
Sure, that I care about. Yeah. I care about the fact that our economy could turn on a dime if China invades Taiwan. I care about that. I care about climate change. I care about I care about America's crippling and, decrepit healthcare infrastructure. But if you're asking me, do I care about a segment of a class of people in another country? Not until we can take care of ourselves will I prioritize them over us. And I think a lot of people believe that. And I'm sorry if that's a hard truth to hear. But every time I say that I care about the Uyghurs, I'm really just lying if I don't really care. And so I'd rather not lie to you and tell you the truth. It's not a priority for me.
And my response to that is, I think it's a sad state of affairs when human rights as a concept globally, falls beneath, tactical and strategic issues that we have to have. We need to have
another
a high
luxury
watermark.
belief. That's another luxury belief.
I don't believing in the Human Declaration of Human Rights that Eleanor Roosevelt
It's a
created with the
luxury
United
belief.
Nations. I don't think it's a luxury belief to believe that all humans should have a basic set of human rights.
I think
That
it's
is
a luxury
basic
belief.
right. Far
And the
from
reason
it.
I think it's a luxury belief is we don't do enough domestically to actually express that view in real tangible ways. So until we actually clean up our own house.
Oh, it's America's fault the Uyghurs are being slaughtered. It's America's fault the Uyghurs are being enslaved. It's America's fault about slave labor. This guy, this billionaire, is a disgusting buffoon. Until we clean up our act, really? People are being slaughtered. I'm sure he's made a fortune, or people like him, billionaires have made a fortune off China. There's always an excuse. It's America. If America doesn't clean up its act, first he wants our shelves to be full. First he wants that. Look, there's always going to be issues in this country. It's a big country, a diverse country. There's an enormous amount of resources in this country. You can point to anything you want, even in your own lives, as an excuse. But how hard is it to condemn the mass enslavement and slaughter of the Uyghurs? And I don't hear enough of that in this country from the Democrat Party or, frankly, the Muslim community in this country. I don't hear it. And it's incredibly shocking to me. Incredibly shocking. That's where the protest should be, not to get out Lady Al-Qaeda. The protest should be against the Olympics. The protest should be against NBC for exclusively covering the Olympics and making a fortune off the Olympics. The protest should be at every NBA game or any professional sporting clubs or organizations that are involved in making money through China or off of China. That's where the protest should be, but they're not. Instead, it's like this fool. You see, you always fall back on, if we get our own act together and until we fill our own shelves, excuse me, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can denounce Joe Biden for failing to have a serious economic program, one that just devours our economic system, takes money from one person and redistributes it to the Democrat Party base, or does other things that cause inflation and shortages, supply chain problems. Anybody ever heard of supply chain problems before Biden and the Democrats took over our economy, or much of it? So on the one hand, this guy contributes to that party. On the other hand, he complains about the results. And then on the third hand, he talks about until we get our act together, which I guess means more spending, more Democrats, longer Biden. It's just not something he wants to think about, the Uyghurs. Now you know why and how things happen around the world. Now you know how the Holocaust happened. He sounds like the publisher of the New York Times. Sulzberger thought the same exact way. With the publisher of the Washington Post, thought exactly the same way. That's correct. And they were both Jewish. But they were very much Americanized, and they just didn't want to be seen as American Jews, with emphasis on the second word, so they downplayed the whole thing. And for other reasons, FDR wanted them to downplay it. Asked the entire media to do so. But here you have this guy. I mean, if this is the way we think, then we shouldn't be surprised that when we, as Americans, find ourselves with our backs against the wall, other countries say, hey, it's not top line for me. It's not something I think about. Not something I'm worried about. I'm worried about my Lamborghini.
For more, sign up for Levin TV.